mania are different but similar. The only difference is the length of time. So with hypomanic episodes, it's 4 days. Manic episode, a week. It used to be longer than 4 days would be manic, hypomanic would be under 3. So anyway, it changed. But those are the differences. Basically, I like to describe it as bipolar 1 is a super, super fun one. It's not really, it's just sarcasm. It's hard understanding the extremes. And I know a lot of psychiatrists actually will diagnose people with bipolar disorder if there's been a hospitalization for a manic episode. All right, you can go to the next slide. All right, so to continue with my life story, that was just a little brief side note. My parents went bankrupt. So much fun. It was 750, right?
Yeah, but we spent about 750,000 between, you send a child to an RTC and that is not reimbursed.
No.
By insurance. So, but we did whatever we had to do.
Yep. And I was told to take medication, but why? Right? There was this huge fight of, I don't want to take medication. This is normal, right? Newsflash, rapid cycling is not normal. I promise you, it's really not. So refusing to take medication resulted in me being hospitalized. I did have a manic psychosis or a psychosis induced by mania. I didn't take my medication and I was watching Fight Club and Death Tunnel, and it full-blown manic episode, and it went into a full-blown psychosis. It was scary. I'm thankful that it was scary, because a lot of times when people are bipolar, we are always searching for that high that we get from manic episodes, right? It's that constant energy, just feeling really great about ourselves, but that's also when we are the most dangerous. So I moved to Florida in 2012. And during that time, I had 1 manic episode, quite a few depressive episodes, and 1 arrest. Yeah. Manic episode,
not
taking my medication, and was manic, then was finally coming down off of my manic episode. And just a silly little fight with my boyfriend at the time, and it resulted in me going to jail. Then I moved to Kansas, finally found my groove, became stable, developed a really great relationship with my mom. My brother and I were still healing our relationship, but I feel like it really improved during that time frame. At 26, I got pregnant, gave up my baby for adoption. And I'll get into that separately. And then I healed. I learned how to love myself again, found my soulmate at a G-Eazy concert. I married him. I graduated with my master's. I started my own private practice. And I'm doing what I really love to do. There are still days where I sit there and I'm like, okay, all right, well, shit, I've gone through a lot of hard stuff and I'm here. And it's a really weird feeling, but that's my life story. Okay, we can go to the next one. Okay, triggers. I get very angry. Very angry. I try not to, but I do, right? I feel like a lot of us do for little things. But I go from 0 to 100 really, really quick. There's no in between. So for example, my triggers are babies crying. And it's that sounds so heartless of me. But infants crying, when I can't do anything about it, it's a major trigger. And then when puppies cry, specifically when they're not mine. So with pregnancy and bipolar, it was rocky. But surprisingly, I wasn't having that many ups and downs. Now, having a baby, could I have done it? Probably, most likely. Do I regret adoption? Absolutely not. I'm stable, but who knows how stable I would have been if I decided to keep her. I wanted to keep her safe. Now, that's not to say that I would have harmed her in any way, but when there are triggers that we are aware of, it would have just, to me, it felt safer and a better option to give her up for adoption. And she's with a really great family, by the way. So story time. This involves my mom. So this takes place last year. So my lovely mom got a Brittany puppy. Her name is Bernadette. She's crazy. She has so much energy and there's no off button, right? So then my mom also decided that it would be really, really cool to go to a Vegas trip with her best friend a week after she got the puppy. And so remember how I said 0 to 100 really, really quick? Yeah, so I was literally going to feed Bernadette to the hawks because she would not stop. She would not stop. So logically, the smart thing would have been to like take Bernie to my mom's house, stay there, be calm. Instead, I decided to have her at my house and listen to her screaming. So I called up my mom and basically demanded that she come home because I was going to feed her to the hawks. Like I said, 0 to 100 is really, really difficult. So that's my trigger too. I mean, it's really nice to kind of be aware of that. It's always great to be aware of our triggers, always. So what is bipolar disorder? I like to use this analogy with my clients that I see who are bipolar. Okay. So we have a baseball analogy. How many people are baseball savvy? Okay. So I apologize in advance if I completely butcher this. So we have a professional pitcher and a 4-year-old pitcher, right? So the baseball is going to be a neurotransmitter. And from the pitcher's mound to first, what is it, to first base?
To the home plate.
To the home plate. There we go. Those are going to be the true neurotransmitters. And this is going to be a message, right? So when you get a professional baseball pitcher, butchering it. Okay. So when I get a professional pitcher out there, he's going to literally be able to make contact with the home plate every single time that he pitches, right? So that would be a healthy message that's being transmitted from one to the next. Then when you get a 4-year-old to come pitch, instead of going like that, he's going to go, and it's not going to go anywhere close to first base, home plate. Oh my God. So that's really the analogy that I like to use with people who have bipolar. So our neurotransmitters just aren't working. We aren't getting the messages sent to each other. So there's just a misconnect, right? So the pro and the toddler, which one do you think the messages?
Oops. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. So people who are bipolar and have been diagnosed with bipolar, about 80 to 90% of the time, the 4-year-old will be pitching, not the professional pitcher. And that's without medication, right? But medication is a beautiful thing. And then the pro will now be full-time, except for the occasional slip up, right? Or the occasional break. There are still days where I just feel off or just a disconnect, right? And so that's normal. And then bipolar is a disease. So it will not ever be cured. Maybe, I doubt it. But it can be treated and it can be managed. You can go to the next one. All right, health. So this is where my mom and Eamon, if you want to speak to, you can totally do so. So I put my family through hell. I said things that I cannot take back. I have ruined friendships. I have ruined relationships. I have failed school because of my manic episodes and my depression. Excuse, absolutely not even close, but it's a reason, right? And my mom is my best friend, but it's taken forever to get here. And it has been hard. Let's see. Mom, do you want to spend like 5 minutes on how life has been with the bipolar child?
Oh, it's wonderful having a bipolar child, especially when she wasn't medicated.
Here, you can sit.
Yeah, you guys know what it's like. Several of you have already commented, but yeah, it was really difficult. There was a time when my kids are 8 years apart, and Abby was in this manic phase, and she would go around and turn on the radios and the stereo and the TV as loud as they could go. And my ex-husband now couldn't handle it, so he would leave. So I had my little son, and I'm trying to hold him, and it just didn't go well. No, it didn't. It was frightening. And when she was at first molested, when she was 4.5, we got her into counseling right away. But boy, there was nothing we could do. We would reach out, and the school just told us we were bad parents. We just needed to learn how to say no. Abby already spoke to that. No is her trigger. So that
it used to be.
It used to be, yes.
It used to be hard work.
Hard work, yes. So no didn't work out so well. It was really tough. I was grateful for the residential treatment center, because all the parents would go out every 2 months, and they had a whole weekend for the parents and our children, and it was pretty amazing what we learned. But boy,
how was it raising a child who is bipolar? What hurdles?
What hurdles weren't there? Abby she alluded to this before, but we were with her friends in Dairy Queen, and Abby said, I got an idea. Let's all drive to Las Vegas. Now, we lived in Maine. We're going to drive to Las Vegas, and we'll spend the weekend, and then we'll drive back. And my way, I couldn't say no, because I knew that wasn't going to work. So I would say, well, let me think about it. And that was enough to kind of have her calm down. And then the next minute, it was just that quick. She's sobbing. What's wrong? I don't know. And she's just sobbing. And then we go back to the mania. It was exhausting. When she was arrested in Florida, she called me up and said, Mom, great day. We're going down to the beach. I'm having a blast. This is going to be fantastic. So you think as a parent, yes, okay, things are going well. And then not 4 hours later, hello, this is the police department. We have your daughter. It's like, oh my God, it's this, it's a roller coaster for her, and it's a roller coaster for us. And I'm sure you guys can relate. So
what is one thing that you learned about yourself as a parent?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Oh, geez. I thought I was going nuts. I really did. I was raised where you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. What mental health? This has been, if you believe in God, I swear to you, God probably said, all right, you don't believe in mental health, we'll teach you. And that's what I've learned that mental health is real. Just for the sake of, I'm a surgeon, so I deal with black and white stuff. This isn't, I can't take mental health and put it up on an x-ray and say, yep, there it is, it's broken. So this is sort of blowing my mind. And because of her and our experience, and my son and our experience, I've learned a lot. And I have a open mind now.
I love you.
I love you too.
Okay. Now
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective as a parent. And you've done a fabulous job.
Now, Eamon, do you want to share a little bit? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, can you talk?
He might have to unmute himself.
You have to unmute yourself, dude. Unmute yourself. Okay. Is that like a hold on? Okay. So we're gonna hold on, I guess, a second for Eamon. So Eamon, you can just interrupt whenever. Okay. So my parents did not think that I was gonna make it to the age of 18. Life is really hard. Life is scary. And so having mom say, it was exhausting just witnessing it, right? Now, could you imagine actually living that?
Mm-mm.
It's eye-opening. Yeah. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So, what's wrong with me, right? I hated myself. I was always asking, why was I different? Why me? There was no stability. It was always the extreme. It was always extremely happy, which is mania, or extremely sad, which is depression, right? Like there was no understanding of how to function. Oh, Eamon, go ahead. I can't hear you still. You're still muted. Okay.
How about now?
Yes.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, cool. Sorry. The technical difficulties. What was the question again? Sorry, I got distracted by mom's.
What was it like having a bipolar sister?
Oh, it was awful. No, no, like it was definitely a learning experience, and having that be sort of my intro to mental health, especially at such a young age. Literally, like, I think as early as I can remember, it was like you would chase me around the house with scissors, and like some days you'd be super nice and I'd be like, oh, okay, cool, like my sister and I can go do stuff, like we can go hang out and have fun. And then there would be the other days where it was just like I'm getting chased around the house with scissors, stuff's getting thrown at me, I'm a nuisance to life and I should have never been born.
Oh.
I'm, so I was just like, okay, I don't know. I was still so young that I didn't have a concept of like what is wrong with this person. So I was just like, oh, okay, that's just my sister. And then even like kind of going beyond my sister, my dad, who is bipolar as well, once my sister left, it was like I was around 13 when you moved. And like I finally got that understanding of, okay, there's something wrong with my sister's mental health. Like, this is something that goes deeper. And I noticed that when it was just my dad and I living together. And a whole slew of things happened from that. It'd be the same things where it was like some days would be awesome and we would hang out, and then other days would not be. So I think that was like, once I turned like 13, 14, I really started to get a better understanding of it. And then I always thought I was bipolar because you were bipolar. And so I got misdiagnosed for 7+ years and was on a slew of medication. And I was just like, oh, okay, this just runs in the family. Right. And so it took a lot of time. And then I'd say once you moved to Kansas City, I was, and I would visit, it was a lot more stable. And you were finally in this environment where, you could be yourself, right? But like your stable self and an overall better self. Yeah. And that's when our relationship, started to prosper a bit and we got out of that zone. I mean, I'm still very superstitious. Every time I save my sister's phone number, something happens, so I don't save it, but I know it by heart. And it's just little things like that that kind of stick with you over time. And I'd say like getting to know the stable you now has helped me out.
Mhm.
So seeing your progression in it has been really nice. But definitely childhood was not that fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not at all.
that's all I really got to add to the mix.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for sharing. And so I wanted all of you guys that are watching to really get two sides, right? So, well, I guess you're getting three sides, aren't you? You're getting the personal experience, you're getting a parent, and then you're also getting a sibling. I don't have any friends here that can get the peer side. But I mean, I remember running away with one of my best friends. We stole a canoe, and then we went back to her house, and I remember laughing when I was getting yelled at because I mean, I didn't understand. Why isn't everyone happy? This was fun. This was a great experience. So there was a lot of friends that I was no longer allowed to have because of my outbursts. So there, I felt like everything was wrong with me, right? But at the same time, I really did think that rapid cycling was normal. I never understood what normal was. All right, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so what have I learned? So, people with bipolar disorder are crazy. Yeah, okay, true, right? But I mean, I think we have to own it, right? So bipolar disorder, I am not my diagnosis, but it is part of me. And so I've learned to really accept that. And with that acceptance comes a great level of self-awareness, identifying my triggers, knowing my early warning signs, learning about my mood swings. Okay. So spring is mania, right? That's like a really good indicator that mania can happen because the times are changing. It's getting lighter for longer times. With fall, there's depression, right? So it's shorter time for the sun, right? My husband and I were going to Alaska for our honeymoon last May, and I was like, okay, so it's going to be light up there 20 hours of the day. So I got to prepare for mania. It didn't happen, but I was self-aware enough where if I noticed that it was going to happen, I could kind of pull myself back into center. I have off moments where it's like I'm in limbo, right? Where it's like I'm not depressed, but I'm not depressed. It's just an off feeling. I just feel off. Communication is key. So I have a very strong support system. And I think that with someone who is living with bipolar, and for anyone who has it or family members who have it, communication is key. And being a part of that support system and network, if you don't have that, it's going to be really hard to remain stable, if that makes sense. Being honest with myself and the ones that I love, not pretending that everything's okay when it's not, right? Like being able to talk about what's going on with me and not feel embarrassed or ashamed. Owning my past. Yep. And learning from it instead of hating myself and feeling regret. Taking medication daily. It's a must. I do it. I am on Lamictal 300 milligrams, and I have been on that same medication since I was 15. And it's worked. That's like the one medication.
Is that the only medication you take?
Well, before
Right now,
she was on
yes.
a slew of medication.
So I have tried, I was on Lamictal, and then I did Geodon, I did Seroquel, Wellbutrin, Prozac. What other ones?
Oh, so
I think that's it.
I think that's it.
That's it. But Lamictal has been a constant, and Lamictal has been the one that's worked. It has been so what I noticed was, and it stopped about 4 years ago, but every 3 years I noticed like a change. So I would be depressed for like a month or two. And so I would need to go on an antidepressant to kind of help me get my chemicals back to where they were before. And then I'd have a 3-year break again, and then it would do it again. But I haven't had that in a really long time. And I think that has to do with the fact of where I am in my life right now, with my support, with being self-aware, with knowing my tools. I feel like that's helped a lot. But I never not take my medication ever. So even if it annoys the crap out of me, when my mom notices that I'm acting a little bit off, she asks me one thing.
Did you take your medication?
Even though I get annoyed with her, it's a great little check-in. It's great. If I don't like it, or if I don't feel like taking my medication, tough shit. If you want to get better and you want to live a good life, that's what you got to do. Right. And it's hard facing that reality. And it's actually kind of funny. So my mom, she used to be like, well, people with diabetes, they have to take their insulin daily. I mean, what I have is a disease. It's never going to be cured. Not like that, nothing, right? But it is manageable, and I can live with it. I mean, if I didn't tell you that I was bipolar, you wouldn't know. And I love me. I think that I'm a pretty cool person, and I love that I'm bipolar. It's part of who I am, and I own it. My life has been filled with extreme ups, downs, trauma, pain, and life lessons. But I am thankful of what life has thrown at me, because I like me and I'm proud of who I've become. I looked at bipolar as a death sentence and became depressed just thinking about it being a lifelong illness and how I have it until I die. Like, who's gonna love me, right? How long will it take for me to get stable? What will my life look like when I'm older? Go to the next one. And there is no time limit, right? There's no set time where it's going to get better, but it will. And I promise you it will. Find a therapist who truly understands bipolar. So I own my own private practice, Therapy Metrics, and I work with two populations: individuals who have been diagnosed with bipolar and adolescents. I have found that a lot of times when people say that they specialize with bipolar, they don't really quite fully understand it like someone who does have bipolar disorder. I feel like we're able to really pick up on the subtle details that, unless you've lived with it, it's going to be hard for someone to identify. It's really hard to relate sometimes, right? So find a therapist who truly understands bipolar disorder, one that can help identify early warning signs of an episode, and who can compassionately challenge old thought patterns. We always chase that high of mania. Well, not always, because I'm scared to death, right? My last manic episode was horrifying. That psychosis has stayed with me. I think that we briefly touched over this about Fight Club and Death Tunnel. Come up with a safety plan. So there is this one from it's called the treatment contract, and it is from Managing Bipolar Cognitive Behavior Treatment Program workbook by the Treatment Works, or Treatments That Work book series. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? No. It's a really, really good book. And basically what it does is there are some examples like, so when I'm manic, who can I give my car keys to? Right? When I really want to start spending money, who can I give my credit cards to? And it's identifying those people so that when we start to notice those little warning signs, right, where we're starting to spend a little bit more money, when we're starting to drive a little bit faster in our car, that's something that we need to look out for. And let's just break the stigma. We have to be honest and open and willing to talk about it. And I think it's also important as clinicians or as family members, friends, partners, to ask the tough questions. I know that we can be mean, we can be harsh, we can be hateful. But sticking by us, man, it has been, I'm lucky. I'm very fortunate. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have the people by my side rooting for me. And I think that we need to be able to ask those questions like, hey, I know that you're hurting right now, but how can I help? What's up, bro? Oh.
I just wanted to add to, if that's okay, to
Mhm.
that. I think also like understanding that like some some of the shots taken feel very personal,
Yeah.
right? Especially like screw you, I'm not coming to your funeral. Like I hope you die, I'm not coming to your funeral. Like that hurts. But it's also knowing that like, okay, you're a little bit manic right now. It's to like put the the personal stuff aside and just know like you're getting it out. It's
Mhm.
okay, and we'll deal with it. Like it's a no hard feelings type of thing. It hurts, but also knowing that eases conversation in the future on how to help and how to be of assistance. Essentially,
Yeah.
that's sorry. I just wanted to add that.
Oh,
Real
thank
quick.
you. Definitely. Thank you. I think it's just like Eamon said, it's it takes a lot to have bipolar, right? But it also takes a lot to be able to love someone and sit there and take that abuse because I mean it's nasty. Um, it gets better though. So if anyone is struggling right now, trying, I mean, there have been multiple days where it's been like my mom has hated me. She's loved me, but she hated the person that I was being at that moment. Eamon has been in that position too. And it's hard, but it's also going to be managed. Like you can do it. Um, I mean, look at me. We didn't think that I was going to make it past 18. Yeah, it's been a journey. But I love that I'm able to be in a helping position where I can help people who have just recently been diagnosed or who are just needing to learn coping skills, anything. I just like what I do. And I'm really glad that I get to use that passion and help others. So that's it. I don't think there are any more slides. So awesome. Do you guys have any questions?
I found this super helpful because I have been diagnosed with bipolar, and like you, I swing towards the mania. Lithium's been a game changer for me.
Yes.
Uh, but I still do experience like just being really short sometimes, and I was just not knowing where that was coming from. So this has been really helpful to understand that, okay, that is also a part of this disorder, and I'm still learning like what my triggers are, and I've got 3 kids, so
Yeah.
um, you know, it's normal for parents to get short, but like it's been more out of character for me than than prior to my diagnosis. So this has been very helpful. Thank you for having the courage to share your story.
I'm glad that it helped. That's what I've been aiming for today, was to really help people. So I'm glad. It's a scary diagnosis, but I'm glad that you are doing it. So don't forget that you're kicking butt, and it's hard and it's a lifelong journey, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and my mom has the same diagnosis.
Yeah.
So I'm really fortunate in a lot of ways that my mom has shown me how to be stable, but
Mhm.
also what happens when you take yourself off your medication after you've been stable for so long. She made that mistake, which is so common.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, I'm like, nope, I'm not
Mhm.
making that mistake because it's
Yep.
taken too long for me to get to where I am now, and I don't want to lose ground.
Yeah.
I appreciate your mom and your brother and the perspective that they bring. I'm not bipolar, but my youngest daughter is bipolar, and I can sympathize with your mom.
Yep.
And I know that you know how lucky you are to have your mom.
Mhm.
And we need stable people like that in to partner. I'm saying I don't have it, but one of us has to be that person that can
Yeah.
help our loved one, that knows them better than anybody, that can kind of help them navigate the space if they let us. So kudos to your mom and your brother that have been there with you. My hat's off to you. I know how hard it is.
She said, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Are there any more questions or comments or anything?
I just want to say thank you. I know that you've been through many years of hardship, but just your hope and advocacy is really encouraging because, I talk to people all the time that are really in a dark place because they don't think anything's ever going to change. And I love hearing your story because it does prove that things can get better, and just keep pushing and keep, and as loved ones, like, we need to stay encouraging, stay plugged in, stay attentive, stay, like, when you have a child or a loved one who's struggling, like, you just don't ever want to give up. So it's nice to hear your story because it's just beautiful. It's very encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Abby, I want to thank you. One of the specific things that you shared tonight about getting a therapist, specifically one that really understands bipolar, because I've had many therapists in my life, and then my son now has had just a couple, and I don't know for him if the one he has, really understands it. I mean, he talks to him, and I'm not there. He's an adult, so that's something I certainly want to look into. I think that that's a real good point as far as, someone who can see triggers, or see, the early signs of an episode, that kind of thing. And then, oh, what was the other thing? Oh, for your brother, the part about having someone who, with a sibling, because I have that with a sibling, having someone who, treats you a certain way, like was my sister, like best buddies and all that stuff, for this time, and then all of a sudden shifts to, like you're her worst enemy kind of thing. So it just helped to hear someone else who has had that same experience. I just feel like less alone, because with her that was really, really difficult. I wanted to be really close to her, and sometimes we were, but at other times, she just kind of took everything out on me for the pain in the family. So, and finally, the last thing I just wanted to say was, well, I want to say thank you so much for tonight. And the part about bipolar, and people who have that illness. Well, I guess one thing, like if I say I am bipolar versus I have bipolar, to me, it's kind of an important distinction. So I think of it more as I have bipolar illness versus I am, like identifying it as who I am. And the other thing is, I don't think of myself as crazy. That word to me is just kind of, it's actually, I guess, a trigger
Yeah.
in that, I have a lot of people in my family that have bipolar, and the behavior, I think, can be called crazy maybe, or, the behavior is way outside, certain behaviors are way outside the norm, but the person themselves, I don't know. It isn't
No,
helpful to me to think of it that way. But anyway,
Mhm.
but
No,
thank you. If you want to
yeah.
address that. Okay.
No, thank you. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. So when I say crazy, that's how I classified myself, because that was a good way for me to cope. That was the best way that I could verbalize what was going on with me, that people seem to register a little bit better. Now that, like, I've been in the mental health field for I've been dealing with mental health for a very, very long time. Now I can actually verbalize and like have my parents and my close network understand what I mean. But when I was first diagnosed, that was the only word that I could describe. That was
Okay.
what I considered myself. And that's how I classified myself. Does that make sense? So I don't consider that now.
Were you judging yourself when you would
Oh,
say I'm crazy?
absolutely.
It was in a negative sense?
Mhm.
Yes. Okay.
I did not like myself. I thought that it was a death sentence.
Mhm.
I hated that I was bipolar. I
Mhm.
hated that I was diagnosed with it.
Mhm.
Now, now I'm okay with it. I
Mhm.
own it. And I don't necessarily think that I'm crazy anymore. And really, no, that is a lot of times when people use the word crazy, it's such a bad word. But at the beginning, when I ask, the negative, right? So what's the first thing that pops to people's minds when they think of bipolar, right?
Mhm.
All of these negative feelings, all these negative thoughts. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Katie, I wanted to say, to help you with the bipolar, saying I am bipolar, if you had diabetes, you wouldn't go around and tell people I am diabetes.
Mhm.
I have
Right.
diabetes. So you put that verb in there, have.
Right.
Bipolar disorder. You don't
Right.
have bipolar, you have bipolar disorder.
Yes.
Like that.
Like
But
like
anyway,
I have heart disease versus I am, you would never say I am heart disease. Yeah.
right.
So that makes total sense. And I realized that at a certain point that I'm not going to label myself as I
Right.
am. It's that I have this illness. Same thing with my
Right.
son. It's not who he is. It's an
Right.
illness he has. So
Right.
it's not his fault. But we have to deal with the behaviors and the medicine, and I'm so grateful that he takes his medicine every single day, and so do I. So I'm really, the whole medicine thing too, Abby. I mean, that's huge. I'm glad that you really stress that, because that's made, and my dad, my grandmother, I mean, other people, my family too, I mean, this made a huge difference, the whole
Good.
medicine thing. Yeah.
I'm glad.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Well, we started off on a rocky road, but thank you all for your patience, and to our executive director Kelly, who's as NAMI Johnson County on the screen, for doing all that work on the back end, so that creating a new link so that we could all join and pick back up with hearing Abby's wonderful story. And so thank you all so much. I think it was time well spent. And I know I really learned a lot, and I thought I knew a little bit, and I learned a lot more. So that's awesome. So we may have Abby back in the future. We'll have to look at our schedule and see where we might be able to fit her in. Not everyone rejoined, but thank you all who did. I think all of us will agree it was just a wonderful program. So
Good.
thank you all. And Kelly, do you want to remind the group what our first Tuesday topic is for November?
Yes, it's November 7th. It's going to be 7 o'clock, and it's about trust and estate planning for your loved one. And so that's a hot topic in regards to making sure that you can speak for your money and your assets after you have passed. And so it's a great measure to take. And so we'll have a guest speaker, and she'll be instructing us on that topic, but it'll be on Tuesday, November 7th at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, because even though we talked about it earlier, escaped me. I was like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is. I know what it is, but I don't know the name of it. So hopefully some of you will rejoin us next month, because it's usually a very well attended session when we talk about estate planning and how you need to plan ahead to make sure your loved ones are cared for. So again, that's our November program. So thank you, Abby, and thank you, Mom, and your brother. Thank you all so much. And hopefully we'll see you again in a few weeks. Thank you
Yes,
all.
absolutely. Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.